Welcome in, everybody, to another deep dive. Today, we're exploring how to find just the right gifts for someone with Alzheimer's. Sometimes gift guides can feel so generic. Well, today, we're going to go beyond the typical ideas.
Right. To uncover gifts that truly make a difference for people living with Alzheimer's, it's so important to find that intersection between practicality and heart. We want gifts that are useful, of course, but gifts that also have that emotional impact.
Yeah, I mean, for someone navigating Alzheimer's, it's those little moments that really matter.
Exactly.
So before we dive into specific gifts, can you give us a quick rundown of Alzheimer's and how it progresses in stages? I think that'd be really helpful for our listeners to understand.
Yeah, definitely. So Alzheimer's is a brain disease that, slowly causes a decline in memory thinking and eventually even the ability to carry out those simple everyday tasks. And it is often talked about in stages. We have the early stage, the middle to late stage, and then we even talk about engagement as a stage. And at each stage, you have unique challenges and opportunities for connecting with and supporting someone with Alzheimer's.
Okay, so you're saying that the gifts we choose should really reflect those stages.
Absolutely. They should reflect what the person is going through at that moment.
I see. It's about meeting them where they are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finding those sparks of joy and engagement for them.
Oh, I love that. So let's jump into some examples. Let's say someone's in the early stage. What kind of gifts would be particularly helpful or meaningful?
Okay, so in that early stage, individuals are often still quite independent, but they might start experiencing some memory lapses or struggling with organization. And so gifts that can offer practical support in those areas, those can be incredibly valuable.
Yeah, like planners and calendars, those kinds of things.
Exactly. Think about a dry erase calendar,
Yeah,
maybe displayed really prominently where they can see it easily. That visual cue can help them stay on top of appointments and their activities.
right.
Or even think about something as simple as a label maker
Oh, yeah.
to label, drawers, cupboards, even just everyday items. It can really help to reduce frustration and help them maintain a sense of control over their environment.
Yeah, I love that. And I've even heard of ride-sharing gift cards being a helpful gift idea for people in this stage.
That's a really clever one because, as Alzheimer's progresses, things like disorientation and difficulty with spatial reasoning can make driving, unsafe.
Hmm.
So a ride-sharing gift card allows them to maintain that little bit of independence
Right.
and continue to participate in the activities that they love without the added stress of driving themselves.
It's so important to preserve that sense of autonomy and dignity, right?
Exactly. And actually, speaking of activities, think about those gift cards for their favorite restaurants or maybe, hobbies that they've enjoyed. Those kinds of things can encourage social interaction, provide a sense of normalcy and just create joyful memories.
Yeah, you're right. It's making me think about how adaptable we have to be with our choices now. Something that might have been a great gift in the past might not be so appropriate.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why staying connected and observant is so crucial. It's like we're not just giving gifts, we're giving a message of love and understanding with those gifts.
That's so well said. Okay, so I think I'm ready to move on. Let's talk about those middle to late stages. What kind of shifts in thinking do we need to make when we're choosing gifts for someone in those stages?
Yeah, so as Alzheimer's progresses, the focus often shifts from that maintaining independence to more, providing comfort and sensory stimulation. The world can start to feel really overwhelming and confusing for someone with Alzheimer's in those stages.
Yeah.
So gifts that can create a sense of peace and security become really, really important.
So imagining things like soft blankets or aromatherapy diffusers, those kinds of things.
You're getting warmer. Think about the power of touch,
Yeah.
a soft blanket, a plush robe, a handheld massage ball even. These tactile experiences can be so soothing and calming, especially as verbal communication becomes more difficult.
That makes sense. And what about music?
Mm.
I've heard stories about how music can be so powerful for people with Alzheimer's, even in those later stages.
It's true. Music really is like a universal language, and it can be especially powerful for individuals with Alzheimer's. Familiar songs can evoke memories and emotions, and they provide comfort and connection even when words fail.
Yeah, it's so amazing. It's almost like a direct link to their heart.
It is.
So besides those sensory gifts, are there any other practical things we should consider at this stage?
There are practical considerations are still important. Think about loose-fitting, comfortable clothing that's easy to put on and take off,
Right.
or adaptive dining accessories that can help with things like tremors or difficulty gripping utensils.
Yeah.
These gifts might not seem all that exciting, but they can make a huge difference in the person's daily life.
Yeah, and help maintain their dignity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And actually, there's a heartwarming story that came up in our research about the impact of a really simple gift, whoopie pies.
Whoopie pies.
Yeah. A woman's son brought her her favorite treat,
Oh.
and the joy on her face was just immeasurable.
That's so sweet. It just reminds us that sometimes the most meaningful gifts are the simplest ones, you know?
Hmm.
The ones that tap into those deep-seated comforts and pleasures.
Exactly. It's all about those moments of shared joy and connection. And that actually leads perfectly into our next category, which is gifts for engagement. We'll talk more about that after a quick break.
We're back. And now I'm really interested to dig into this idea of gifts for engagement. It seems like we're going beyond just comfort now. Like now we're actively thinking about stimulating the mind and encouraging interaction.
You got it. Engagement is crucial at every stage of Alzheimer's. But how we approach it can definitely change as the disease progresses.
Yeah.
You know, those earlier stages, it might be more about supporting existing hobbies and interests. But as you get into those middle to late stages, we have to think outside the box a bit and find those new avenues for stimulation and connection.
So what are some examples that come to mind? I know I saw things like memory phones and puzzles in the research we looked at. Yeah, those are great examples. A memory phone can be fantastic for connecting individuals with loved ones even when their short-term memory is fading. You know, it's basically a simplified phone with photos, names, and contact information. And they can just touch a photo to call someone or even just to see their face, which can be such a comfort and help reduce anxiety.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like a direct line to those really important connections. So what about puzzles? I can see how those could be mentally stimulating, but wouldn't they also be kind of frustrating for someone experiencing cognitive decline?
It all comes down to finding the right level of challenge. You know, you're not going to give someone in the later stages a complex 1,000-piece puzzle, but you can give them large-piece jigsaw puzzles or simple word searches or even tactile puzzles that have different textures or knobs. It's not just about completing the puzzle. It's about the process of thinking and problem solving and even just the sensory experience of it.
I never thought about it that way, but that makes a lot of sense. And it also creates those opportunities for shared moments of connection too, right? Like working on a puzzle together or laughing at a silly mistake. Those are the little things that can really make a difference.
Exactly. And don't forget, these activities aren't just for the person with Alzheimer's. It's a chance for caregivers and loved ones to connect too, you know, to share a laugh and to create positive memories together. It's about finding moments of joy even when things are challenging.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've talked about memory phones, we've talked about puzzles. What other types of engaging gifts can people consider? I know the research also mentioned things like outings and events.
Yeah. Outings can be so stimulating, especially if they kind of tap into the individual's interests or maybe provide a lot of sensory richness. So you could think about a trip to a museum with familiar artwork, or maybe a concert with their favorite kind of music, or even just a visit to a local park with gardens and, you know, the sounds of nature.
It's about bringing the world to them in a way that's accessible.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be something super fancy or expensive either. Even something as simple as a walk in the neighborhood, or a trip to a farmer's market, or a drive to look at holiday lights. Those things can provide a nice change of scenery and a bit of positive stimulation.
Yeah, I love that. It's about shifting our perspective and realizing that engagement can be found in a lot of everyday moments. But I also imagine it takes a lot of observation and intuition to figure out what's really going to resonate with someone at this stage, right?
Well, you're absolutely right. It's about really paying attention to their nonverbal cues and their reactions. What are they engaging with? What are they not engaging with? It's a lot of trial and error. And sometimes the things that surprise you the most end up bringing the greatest joy.
This whole conversation has really opened up my mind to the thoughtfulness and the empathy that goes into choosing a gift for someone with Alzheimer's. It's not just about buying something. It's about expressing love and support in a way that really speaks to their needs.
I couldn't agree more. And I think the most beautiful part of this is that the gifts we're talking about aren't just beneficial for the person with Alzheimer's, they enrich the giver's life too. They deepen our connection and they expand our understanding. They remind us of those simple joys that exist even in the face of adversity.
That's a really beautiful way to put it. So as we start to wrap up our deep dive today, is there anything we haven't really touched on that you think would be important for our listeners to know?
You know, one thing that sometimes gets overlooked is the importance of environment. We've talked about all these objects and activities, but the space that someone inhabits can really have a big impact on their well-being too.
What do you mean by that?
Well, imagine a living space that's cluttered and noisy and has bright lights. That can be so overwhelming for someone with Alzheimer's, especially as it progresses. But then, picture a calm, organized space with soft lighting and gentle music and familiar objects. It can really create a feeling of peace and security.
So it's almost like creating a sanctuary,
Mm.
a place where they feel safe.
Exactly. And this can actually be another great area for gift giving. Think about things like aromatherapy diffusers with calming scents, or weighted blankets for sensory comfort, or even just helping to declutter and organize their space. It can go a long way in creating a more peaceful environment.
These are all fantastic ideas.
Ah,
I feel like this is making me rethink my whole approach to gift giving in general, not just for people with Alzheimer's. It's about being more mindful and more intentional and really focusing on experiences that nurture well-being.
I love that takeaway. And sometimes the best gifts aren't even objects at all. Sometimes it's more about those actions and gestures of love and support. Sometimes it's simply being present with someone and letting them know that they're not alone.
That is such a powerful reminder. It's about shifting our focus from the material to the emotional, from the tangible to the intangible.
Exactly. And you know what? That leads us beautifully into what I think is the most important gift of all. And we'll discuss that right after this.
We're back, and this conversation has really got me thinking differently about what it really means to give a meaningful gift.
Yeah, it's amazing how much depth there is to this topic, right? It really goes so far beyond just buying something.
For sure. We've covered practical gifts and sensory gifts, and even the gift of just creating a supportive environment. But you were saying there's one more gift that you see as the most important one.
It's funny. We live in a world that really values material things and big gestures. It's easy to lose sight of just simple presence. I think the most powerful gift you can give someone with Alzheimer's is the gift of your time. Just being present with them and connecting with them.
Oh, I love that. It's like stepping away from all the distractions and just being there with the person.
Right, meeting them on a heart-to-heart level.
Yeah,
It's about those little quiet moments that you share, just being human together. Maybe holding their hand, listening to their stories, or even just sitting in comfortable silence. It might not seem like much, but those moments really mean a lot.
I can see how that would be so grounding for them,
Hmm.
especially for someone whose world is becoming, more and more fragmented.
Yeah, you're reminding them that they're seen and loved and valued. And that connection, that sense of belonging, it goes beyond, memory or cognitive decline.
It really does.
Hmm.
It makes me think about how we always try to fix things or make things better, but sometimes the best thing you can do is just be there with the person in their experience.
Yes. It's about letting go of that need to control or solve everything and just being in the moment with all of its, challenges and beauty.
This has been such a good conversation.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a whole new understanding, not just of Alzheimer's, but also just of, what it means to be human.
That's wonderful. And the best part is that this gift of presence, it's something anyone can give, no matter what your resources are. It's a gift from the heart. And it can really change both the giver and the receiver.
That's such a beautiful thought. So to everyone listening, if you're on this journey of caring for someone with Alzheimer's, remember that you're not alone. There are still so many moments of grace and connection. Even in the midst of the challenges, I hope you find comfort and strength in the power of simply being present. And never forget that the best gifts are the ones that come from the heart.
Well said. I hope you find moments of peace and connection and joy this holiday season and beyond.